Hi, Clara. It's so nice to see you today. Hi, I'm Paul.
Nice to see you too, Paul.
Thanks so much for coming in to see me today. There's a lot we need to go over here to get started, but I just want to start by just saying how much I appreciate you coming in, and I wanted to ask if you had any trouble finding the office.
It was fine.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a referral here from your physician, Dr. Smith, and he's mentioned a couple of concerns here, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on those. I like to start off by just letting everybody know that whatever we talk about here in therapy stays between you and I, unless there was a cause or a concern that I felt like you were going to harm yourself or harm someone else. And so by law, I am a mandated reporter, and so I would have to notify the appropriate parties. Of course, I would make you aware of that, and I would ask how you would want to go about that. And if you would like me to share any information from our sessions with your physician, Dr. Smith, then I would need to have a release of information. And I have that with me now. You can sign it now, or we can sign it at the end of the meeting. What would you prefer?
Do we have to do that today or
Absolutely not.
even share with him?
Well, it would be up to you what you want to share and how much or how little, if at all. And that's something you can decide after today or in later sessions. It doesn't have to be decided on today. So I'll just hang on to that form. And I also wanted to let you know that I'll be taking notes, if that's okay with you, throughout the session. And I can make those notes available to you if you'd like. Would you like a copy of those notes?
Yeah, that'd be okay.
Okay. I also just want to let you know that these notes will be kept in a very private space under lock and key, and no one else will have access to them. So let's just jump right in here. Have you ever been to therapy?
Yes.
Okay. And what did that look like for you?
Just going to talk to somebody. I didn't go for very long.
Mm, okay. I noticed you're clasping your hands quite a bit. Can I ask, are you nervous?
A little bit.
A little bit? Therapy can be very nerve provoking for several people, and so sometimes what I like to do is just take a really deep breath. It sometimes helps me. Um, I'm going to take a breath right now. How does that feel for you?
It's better.
Better. Okay. Do you want to take another breath? Okay. Probably doesn't get rid of all of your nervousness or maybe some anxiety around therapy, but I just want you to know that if you need to take a breath throughout the session or if you need to stop for any reason, just let me know. Okay? Um, so we were talking about therapy, and you had mentioned that you have been in therapy before, and I was hoping to get a picture of what therapy looked like for you.
Just I've gone to see someone and I didn't really like it. Just I felt wasn't very personable and it just asking me on a scale of 1 to 10 how I was feeling, and I just felt like it was they were very cold and I just didn't like it. So I didn't really, I went for a couple times and stopped.
Okay. Well, that's very good feedback to hear from you, and that certainly helps me, um, to avoid some of those things that you disliked about therapy. Because the goal with therapy is to have you come back for several sessions, and we don't know what that looks like right now because it's just our first session. Some clients come in for 8 sessions and then they're done, and some people I've seen for over the years. So it's really individualized, and so we'll get to that a little bit later in therapy if you decide to come back. Okay? So your physician was concerned about some sleep issues, some appetite issues, maybe some sadness. And so I wanted to ask you if that's an accurate description of some of the concerns that you have, and if there were any other concerns.
Yeah, I've been having really hard time sleeping, just to the point where I'm not really sleeping at all. And I don't have an appetite. And when I try to eat, I just don't feel good, so I haven't been eating, and it's been tough, but just kind of been dealing with it.
And when you say dealing with it, can you elaborate?
I've just kind of been slugging through, just, it is what it is, and I don't particularly like it, but I don't really have any idea how to change it, and it's just what it is.
So what I've heard from you is that you're having some difficulty with sleeping, and you're having some difficulty with appetite, and having some challenges with dealing with that, and then just kind of going through it. Are there any other concerns that you have?
I'm not happy with what's happening. I'm not happy with that. I haven't felt like myself in months, and I don't know.
So you said you're not feeling happy. Can you describe what not being happy looks like for you?
I don't want to really do anything. I always thought of myself as someone who was really friendly, and I liked being around people, but now I don't really want to see anyone, and some days I just feel really, really sad, but then other days or those days I just don't have much emotion at all, which I feel like is even worse, because I just feel kind of numb, and I'm just going through the day and doing what I'm supposed to, but not really feeling at all like myself.
Just taking some time to process that. I'm trying to think of my response to that. So it sounds like you used to be really outgoing, and that's changed over the last several months.
Yeah.
And it's becoming more challenging, and it sounds like you're doing the minimum to get through the days. Do you feel like that's a fair assessment?
Yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned your friends. Do you have a lot of friends?
I used to. I haven't really for like 6 months or so. I shut people out. I don't, haven't seen them. I mean, we used to do a lot of activities together, and I was actually on the soccer team, and have the desire, and I've just kind of stopped talking to all my friends, and don't want them to see me this way, or they all have been trying to be understanding with everything that happened, and but I can't.
Okay. You mentioned that they're trying to be understanding about something that went on.
Yeah. I don't know if I really want to talk about it, because that's just been something
It's okay. Do you want to take just a moment?
it's so hard to talk about. It was 6 months ago. I was engaged and was gonna be married, in a couple months, and my fiance, he rode a motorcycle and he was in a terrible accident. He died at the scene. And it's been terrible. It's been like hell, and it's like I wake up some days and I think he's gonna be there when I roll over, and he's not, and yeah.
Wow. It's really, really difficult. I'm really, really sorry to hear that. I truly am. Yeah, I'm a little affected by that.
He was my soulmate. He was my person. He was who I wanted to be with the rest of my life, and we were in the process of buying a house and planning on having kids and just our whole lives, and he's also just been that person for years. Like, we were together since high school and went through everything together. And so he's gone now, and I don't feel like I can move on in life without him. Like, I don't know how.
So it sounds like recently you've had thoughts of, how are you going to manage this? How are you going to move on?
I don't feel like I'm ever going to find someone like him. Like, he was my soulmate. And I don't feel like I'm ever going to find that, or I don't know if I want to, or...
It sounds like you had a lot of plans together.
Yeah.
And you've known each other since high school. That's a long time. And I can imagine that's a really tough thing to go through, to have all those plans and then to have something so tragic happen.
It's the worst thing that's ever happened to me.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that with me. I know that it can't be easy, and I saw how impacted you were, and to this day. And there's been a lot of research done on loss and how we as individuals process loss and grief, and it's very individualized. And so there's really there's really no right answer, and there's really no right way of processing and how we deal with them. They're all very individualized, and so I just wanted to offer that to you and say that that some of the things that you're feeling are normal because they're feelings to you. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I appreciate that because I feel like some days I should be, it's been 6 months, we should be moving on, we should be, feeling better. I mean, even though like who I'm still talked to, they've all said, it's a terrible thing and you should be expected to move on quickly, but it's been 6 months and I feel like I haven't done anything. Instead, I just feel like in this hole, and I know he wouldn't want that for me. Like he'd want me to go, like he was such a vibrant, full life person. Like he was the one who pushed me to go like, to go to the Amazon, and we went on trips and to go, do safaris in Africa, and wanted to push me to do those adventurous things and skydiving, and he wouldn't want me to do where I'm at. And so I feel guilty because it's like if you was me, I feel like he'd be still going, and I'm just sitting and wasting time and wasting life.
So again, it sounds like you had a lot of plans that for how you were going to spend out the rest of your lives, and it sounds like that you got to achieve some of that. You mentioned that you went to the Amazon and you went on a safari. Those are great memories, hold on to those. Those are really, that's powerful. That's really powerful. You're right. It sounds like there's some people in your life who might not understand where you're at with where you're, with your experiences and this loss, and that's okay, because everybody's going to have their own experiences, and it's all about Clara and what's going to be the right for Clara. So, so do you feel like this experience, this tragic experience, has had an impact on some of the issues that we had talked about earlier? We talked about some sadness, and we talked about some sleep, and we talked about appetite. Do you see the correlation with that? Okay. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Okay. So we talked about friends, and is there anybody else close to you that you've talked to them about this?
I have a large family. Too many siblings to count. But it's been too tough to see them. I haven't even gone to holidays, but I talk to my mom a couple times a month still. I feel like if I don't, she worries about me, that I would just feel more guilty if I closed her out.
So I hear you saying you have a large family and you have contact with your mother, and there's some feelings of guilt if you were to close her out. And I'm wondering, has there been anybody else that you've closed out?
I mean, my friends and just everybody really was close to me. His family, too. We knew each other. We dated since high school, so his family I was really close with also. And I I mean, for his family, I can't even look at them because it's just, I can't even imagine like what his mom is going through and his siblings, and then I can't. My friends are just, they're moving on in life, and some of them are getting married, having babies, and that's so hard to see. So it's pretty much everybody, but I feel like I can't do that all the way to my mom, so talk to her a little bit.
So I hear you saying that you haven't had contact with his family, and it sounds like there's some guilt there. And I'm just curious as to why there's some, where that guilt's coming from.
I mean, we've been a part of each other's family for 10 plus years already, and he has no sister, so his mom always told me I'm her daughter. That was, she had 4 sons, and then, and actually he's the oldest, so none of his other siblings got married, so I was, for the longest time their daughter. I feel guilty because I haven't reached out to them, because I know they must be feeling similar things to me, but I get paralyzed anytime I try to call. Like, it's hard enough for me just to pick up the phone when my mom calls me.
And so you talk with your mother, and have you two shared how you're feeling and how this has impacted you?
She knows. I mean, she's seen what my life has become, and she sometimes gets it out of me, but it's hard for me to just express how I'm feeling without breaking down. And
So it sounds like it's still pretty difficult to talk about it with her. Is there anybody else that you've kept in contact with other than your mother?
I have a cousin that she practically grew up in our family and was like my sister. I mean, we're only a couple months apart in age, so we joked we were twins in our family. And she's dealt with not the same situation, but in her life, I feel like depression and other things too. And so she's pushed to stay in my life because I haven't, I feel like, wanted people in, and she said she wasn't gonna accept that.
Well, that what a benefit that is, that you have your mom and your cousin. It sounds like they really care about you, especially your cousin. She fought so hard to stay connected even when it was really challenging. So kudos to her, but kudos to you for letting her in, as difficult as that was. And I think they could be a real source of strength for you, and to help with processing. Would you agree that your cousin and mother are good sources of?
And they love me at the end of time, and I think I know what they're trying to do is because they want what's best for me, and see that I'm unhappy, and see that I don't want to stay where I am, don't want to be this way. And so I know that that's where it's coming from, and I think you're right. Like, they're a great support even when it's hard.
Okay. So we talked a bit about your support system. We talked a little bit about some sadness that you're feeling due to the passing of your fiance, and that's really had an impact on you, sleep-wise and appetite-wise. we've referred to him as your fiance, and I'm wondering if we can call him by name.
I don't want to do that.
Okay. Okay. So we talked about your fiance. And what is it that you do for work?
I am a graphic designer.
Okay.
So I design websites for companies, work from home.
Okay. And do you feel like the passing of your fiance has it had an impact on that area of your life?
It's the only area I function in. I just plow through it, and something I can put my mind on, that I can shut everything else off and shut off that he's gone and just do it. And with not sleeping, I have hours a night where I'm just awake, and if I have to, I do work. And
So on an average, how many hours would you say you're working a day?
it's 11 or 12.
Okay. And how much sleep are you getting a day?
I get only a couple hours every day, if that.
You said you're a graphic designer for, you design websites? And I'm curious, tell me a little bit more about that. I think that's interesting.
I'm freelance, and I just get hired by companies to make website however they want it. Sometimes I do brochures for them too, but it just kind of depends on the company, what they're looking for, and what they want it to look like, how they want to function.
Okay. So we've talked a great deal about sort of where you're at in your life, and we've talked about how that's impacted you, and we talked about quite a bit, and I'm starting to get a better picture of who Clara is. And I want to ask, what are you doing for self-care? You know, we talked about your work and you're putting yourself into your work, but are there any other ways of?
I don't really have much of right now. I mean, I'm at home, and if I watch TV, or I haven't really been reading because I haven't been able to keep myself on task enough to do that or want to. I mean, I used to play soccer, and I love that. But I haven't had any passion or any want to do that for the last couple months.
Okay. So, looks like we're getting to the end of our hour, and so I'd like to wrap up by just talking about what we've covered in our session. And so we talked about some feelings of sadness, and we talked about some issues with sleeping and loss of appetite, and we've also talked about the unfortunate passing of your fiance. Again, thank you for sharing that. And we've talked about some withdrawal issues with your friends and family. We talked a little bit about your relationship with your mom and your cousin. Again, I think that that's really important, and it sounds like they really care about you, and that's great. And so, if you're interested in coming back, I'd like for us to meet again in a week for an hour. And I have some availability Tuesdays and Thursdays from 5 until 7. So anytime in between there, we can certainly meet again. And I'd like to talk about putting all of this together and really establishing some goals. And if you decide to come back next week, I'd like to hear about how your conversation with your mom went for this week.
Okay.
Earlier you'd mentioned that it had been a couple weeks since the last time that you talked to her. And so I think, just reaching out to her and letting her know that you've decided to go back to therapy.
Okay.
And maybe talk about how that was for you. Does that sound like something you'd be willing to give a try?
I could maybe try it.
Okay. And so I'll close with just asking, how was today for you? How are you feeling after today?
I'm feeling better than when I came in.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay.
I think, I would like to come back again and see how it goes.
Okay. So feeling some relief. The door is open for an opportunity for you to come back in. And I think that's great. I think that's really great, Clara. So, well, I look forward to seeing you again. I hope to see you next week. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to my office. And if you'd like to make an appointment, please stop and see Diane in the front. Okay? Thanks so much, Clara. I really appreciate it. Take care.